That cued the behavior. Because when the dog heard the bell, from then on he thought, food. Okay, a common antecedent today would be your cell phone ring. What do you do when your cell phone rings? Yeah, we used to just answer. Now we don't answer it, right? Now we look to see who's calling. Who is that? Okay, so why did we change? Bless you. Why did we change? Why did you change from just answering your phone to now looking at it before? Yeah, you didn't want that telemarketer trying to sell you 52 cases of dog food that you only have a cat, right? Okay, so you screen your calls. Also, okay, so the antecedent is something that cues, doesn't cause the behavior, but cues the behavior. Okay? Are we okay with that? So what are some common antecedents for safety? Common antecedents in safety. We talked about it before. What about training? Is training a good antecedent? You just hire anybody off the street and let them go out and do anything they want with your equipment? If you do, stay after class. We're going to have a talk. Okay? Okay? Well, what do? You get somebody new off the street. What do you do with them? You train them. You give them education and training. Hey, this is what this looks like. This is what I want you to do when this happens. Okay? When you get over here and you get a place where the snow's built up, I want you to put down the plow and I want you to do this. Oh, by the way, please also have on your sander in the back going on, and this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want you to do it. True? So an antecedent, when I'm talking about safety processes, is training and experience. Do any of your more senior people have a tougher time with receiving training? Anybody have that issue? Yeah, imagine that. They already know everything, right? Okay, so, but still, your goal is you want to give them the right information and get that going. So an antecedent is something that happens before the behavior. Okay, so what comes before? That's what the Spanish definition is what comes before. Okay, all right, so that antecedent then leads to a behavior. Okay, so now next time they go out, they're going to be driving down the road with the snow plow and they get to an area where there's time to put their plow down, they know what to do, right? So then is when you look at their behavior. So the antecedent said, oh, there's snow on the ground, you're driving a snow plow, what are you going to do? Put the plow down, put the sander on, and do what? Well, hopefully you're driving down only one lane at a time and those type of things, but there are different behaviors that go on because of the antecedent. True? You pick up your cell phone, it's ringing, pick up your cell phone, you look at it, it's Doug Handy, don't answer it. Okay? But anyway, so as you go through the process, you have a behavior. So the antecedent causes a behavior. And then comes the consequence. Okay? How many behaviors result in a consequence? Every one, every behavior. You got up this morning and got here and you get to listen to me. Woohoo! And we'll have a little bit more interactive, some fun here and right after break. But we're right now your consequence is you can listen to me. Man, are you excited or what? I can tell in your faces you guys are just excited to be here. All right, so consequence. Well, I learned that when I was a little kid. You may have learned the same thing. Every behavior results in a consequence. When my mom said, Doug, take the garbage out to the curb. In my house, way different consequence if that garbage made it out to the curb or didn't. Don't know about your house. Don't need to get into all this discipline thing, but I'm just telling you, my house, way different consequence. Not even in the same world if that garbage made it out to the curb or if it sat there. Okay? How about your house? Have the same experience type of thing? Things happen. Okay? So every behavior, we're not talking about work behaviors here or safety. This is the ABCs of human behavior, and actually for a lot of our smarter animals, like most of our fish and things, you can train them with the same concepts, that they get a consequence when things happen, right? Okay, so there's antecedent, behavior, and consequence. So that's why they call the ABCs. There's A, B, C, A. Pretty good, huh? Okay. Okay, so the ABCs are human behavior. And it's what that does is they correlate together. Okay? Pretty good thing. All right? So if you want something to happen, how do you control that? You can control the antecedent, okay? So go back to the antecedent. That's one way to do that. So let's take the antecedent. We go back to the antecedent. So we notice that they're not putting their plow, or they're not putting their sander on when they're plowing down the road. So what are you going to do? Yeah, you bring them in, you educate them, you train them. Why do you want to do that? Why is that important for you to do that? You want to maybe create a little bit of the motivation when you're doing the training, rather than saying, when this happens, push this button. Okay, you want to tell them why that helps, so you can get better to training. True?
Step-by-step process, and it becomes routine.
Absolutely. So when does a habit form? I can ask every one of you, you all give me a different answer. Okay? Just like you ask a psychologist, every one of them have a different answer. But generally, it is assumed that if you do something 7 to 14 times in a row, it becomes a habit. You okay with that? 7 to 14 times in a row. How many of you always wore your seatbelt through your whole life? Okay. I can't raise my hand. My first 2 cars didn't even have seatbelts. So I couldn't wear it anyways. I didn't grow up with having that habit of getting in. I'm not telling you how old I am, but I'm just telling you my first 2 cars did not have seatbelts in them. So I didn't have that habit. What did it take for me to get that habit? Probably somebody nagging me, somebody helping me understand, right? Get to that epiphany in life, and that kind of thing. But now I don't know if my car actually starts without my seatbelt on. It's just the way it is. I don't need. Does your car start without your seatbelt on? I guess mine may. I don't know. How do we have to try it one day? But I usually, as you get in, that's just what I do now. Put my seatbelt on. Okay, but usually 7 to 14 times. That's what it's going to take. Okay. What if you want to change a habit? How long does it take to change a habit? For some things it's pretty tough, isn't it? So maybe never. Okay? Okay? Here's what the scientists say. Okay? Say if it 7 to 14 times is for you to create the habit, for you to create a new habit, because that's how you change a habit. You can't, they've decided you can't just stop a habit. You have to replace with something else, whether it's a different thing you're doing or meditation or whatever it's going to be. You've got to replace with something else. Okay, so they say this: if once you got a habit, to get it completely replaced and create that new habit, 17 to 31 times in a row. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? 17 to 31 times in a row. Now, that's why my golf game's the way it is. Okay? I got some pretty bad habits. And I can do it once or twice really, oh man, I'm awesome. Wow, look at that. But I can't do it 17 times in a row. to replace the bad habit of looking up or whatever it is I'm doing. Okay? So 17 to 31 times to change a habit. Now we change those habits, so we can change that by changing the antecedent, making it better. By improving the antecedent, we can improve the behavior. Okay? So we got to do better training. You okay with that? Be specific about what you want them to happen. Okay? So let's just take the example of driving a snowplow. Okay? What's your name? Joe. So Joe, every time it snows, I want you to just get in the truck and go plow the snow. You good? I know we hired you yesterday, but you just get in and just go. You okay with that? Okay, bye. You ever seen that type of training before at your operation? Unfortunately, I've seen that way too often, okay? Well, hey, Joe, here's what I want you to do. I know we just heard yesterday, but here, now we're going to talk to you about snowplows. So here's the keys. This key only goes to these here snowplows that are red. Okay, so when it starts to snow, when we call you in and say, Joe, come in and start plowing snow, I want you to grab this key and go to what kind of truck? The red truck. Okay, grab this key, go in and get a red truck, and I want you to go in and then just plow the snow. Okay, all right. Okay, so, or what about this? Hey, Joe, thanks for coming in today. I know I heard yesterday, here's our training. When it snows, we call you in and say, Joe, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, but we need you to get out there and plow that snow before the traffic really hits. Is what I'd like you to do. There's this key right here. This key goes only to the red trucks. I want you to take this key, go out there. I want you to start your truck. I want you to make sure your windshield and things are all cleared off so you can see clearly. I want you to make sure that your blade's in good working condition. And then just go plow the snow. Getting better? What would you really want it to look like? Hey, Joe, thanks for coming today. I know your second day on the job. Thanks for what you do, and we're glad to have you as part of our team. Here's what I'd like to talk to you about. Let's talk about when it snows, when it's time to plow the snow. So we hired you to help us plow the snow. That's one of your duties. And I know you've driven a truck before, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Okay, but even though you've driven a truck before, let's go through some basics. Okay, here's a key. See this key? There's a whole set of keys right here. All these keys just go through these red trucks. They're numbered, so when you pick up truck or key number 4, you go out there to truck number 4. This only goes for the red truck, so pick up the key that matches that. I'd like you to go out and like you to make sure, number 1, that as you're getting into that truck, that that's all cleared off for you not to be able to get hurt, fall and slip. So I want you to clean out that step. I want you to get in, start the truck, make sure the defrosters work, make sure the windshield wipers work, and then I'd like you to, while that truck is running and warming up a little bit, I'd like you to go out and clear off your windshield. I'd like you to make sure that your blade's in good shape, make sure there's no big nicks or anything in it, make sure that coupling on that blade is in good shape. Okay? And then that's what I'd like you to do is go also around the back and make sure that your sander is not clogged or broken up, and I can go out and show you that a little bit later, but I'd like you to do that. Okay? And then what I'd like you to do after that is make sure that looks like it's good. Check your tires real quick, because you're going to be out there doing a lot of things a long way from the building. You want to make sure that you're in good shape. Okay? You probably won't need any change. You're a big enough vehicle. However, if you do need change, they're underneath your seat. Okay? I'd like you to get back in then, and again, make sure before you leave, make sure your blade goes up and down. Make sure your horn works. Make sure your lights work, because you're going to be out there, and we don't want people to run into you. How's that? A lot better. So we talked about improving the antecedents. Is that better? So how do you do your training? That's one of the things you can think about. And not only there, I think if I have a couple of minutes, maybe later on, I'll tell you how I work this at home too, with the kids. Okay, it worked out pretty well. All right, but okay. So we got the antecedent. We can make it better. Okay, that's how we can improve this behavior. How else can we improve the behavior? Okay, we talked about antecedents. We talked about behaviors.
A mistake I think we often make mistake, folks, is we assume people understand consequences better than they do. And so we start with antecedents, training programs. This is what you need to do. Pretty soon we become the organizational nags, and you get resistance and pushback. But I found you have to focus on the consequence section and explain why this is important for our organization to get the necessary buy-in and make the antecedents work. And so, how does safety impact our lost time, the injuries to your employees, your own budgets, workers' compensation, and EMOD? You need to have your statistics and know how it impacts your own organization in order to sell the program enough to get support to even begin with the antecedents.
It's worth $100,000 right there. All right, that's worth $100,000. Well, that's right on the money. We gotta get people to understand what the consequences really mean, what it's about. Is that not true? So we can change, we do need to do that. We do need to make our antecedents better. We do need to change our behavior. What do you think the percentage of changing the antecedents is to affecting the overall behavior long term? It's about 20 to 25%. You can get the best antecedents in the world, but if you don't reinforce them by the consequences, they will go away sooner or later. Okay? You can make a 75 to 80% change in behaviors by changing or monitoring the consequences. Okay? I mean, I could train that dog every day to go over and not touch my sandwich, all right? Every day. You see that sandwich? Don't touch it. And I'm standing right there. He doesn't touch it. And I go ring, answer the doorbell. What happens? Okay? Until that consequence changes, he is not going to change his behavior. Comment, question back here. Yes.
Well, my comment is, as safety people, when we have an accident and we go to investigate it and we ask this individual why did they do that? Almost every time they'll say, well, I guess I wasn't properly trained. So our antecedents as safety officers are to make sure that they don't have that as an excuse, that they form these good habits in the beginning. Like, it's kind of like your snowplow scenario. I mean, all it takes is one person to have an accident and then, we're in trouble. And you ask them and they'll say, well, nobody really gave me any training. So, it's kind of a circle for us as well, that, when we have an individual say, I wasn't trained, we got to take that excuse out of their scenario.
Exactly right. And I appreciate that comment. So we talk about that hits on the law of primacy, right? What I learn first, I learn best. So really is important that we have good antecedents up here. It really is. And us as safety professionals, our job to train and make sure they understand. So when we talk about training, there's two things that happen in training. Training should be, one, how to do the job, whatever the task is. The second about training is whose responsibility is what. Okay? Got to drive, so it's not going to be Joe's responsibility to go over and maintenance or do maintenance on those trucks when he's going to do the snow plow, right? We didn't tell him about that, but we would talk to him about that. So one of the training is two parts. One, you're telling him what to do, how to do the task. Second, and even do the hands-on stuff, right? And the second thing is who's accountable, who's responsible for what. That's kind of what training should entail. So I appreciate that comment. And so our goal is, if we get them trained the right way the first time, we give them the right information all the way through the first time, instead of saying, here's a set of keys, pick out any truck you want, do whatever you want. They're going to remember that. When you came on the job to where you are, how was your trainer? Don't have to answer that. Just think about that for a second. You in your own head, how was your trainer? Okay. Was your trainer good? Did they sit down with you and go through the details and explain to you what was what good looked like? That's really what safety is about. A lot of the training is just, what does good look like? Okay? Did they do that? And again, you don't have to answer that. So when you're doing training, what type of trainer do you want to be to make that happen? These antecedents are important. The antecedents go from here and then they go to consequences. We've got to tell them what the consequences are. Appreciate that. You tell them what's going to happen if things don't go right. Okay? So, there's 4 consequences. For every behavior, there's only, they're going to put every consequence you ever get into 4 categories. First one is, you get what you want. Did that dog get what he wanted? Absolutely, okay? That's a good thing, okay? So is that a positive consequence? Okay, that's a positive. You get what you want, positive consequence. Okay, so number 2 is we avoid what we don't want. Anybody got an example for that? I'll give you an example. My boss only comes and talks to me when things are going bad. So if I do it right, my boss doesn't come talk to me. Right? So I avoid what I don't want. I don't want my boss talking to me. I hope that's not the case, but I'm just telling you, that's an example. You avoid what you don't want. Again, is this positive? In your mind? Yeah, you kind of got what you want by avoiding what you didn't want, right? Okay? All right? So those are positive consequences. Those are things, if we get this thing here happens, our likelihood of doing that behavior, repeating that behavior, goes up. We will do that behavior more to get those consequences. You okay with that? Okay. Taking the garbage out? Yep. I did it right. Mom says, thanks, Doug. Here's a cookie. Yeah, I said, that was good. I like that. My mom made the best oatmeal cookies. Anyway, that was pretty awesome stuff, okay? So, that's 2 of the consequences. Let's go to the next ones. Number 3, we get what we don't want. Okay, so now we've done this, we get what we don't want. So, I did this, it wasn't the right thing, and now my boss comes to talk to me. So now I got what I didn't want to have happen. Is that a positive or a negative consequence? Negative, right? Negative. So I got what I didn't want. Okay? I wasn't paying attention. I was talking on my cell phone. Not a good thing to do, and I ran into the back of somebody. So I got what I didn't want. That was a consequence. Okay? Negative one. Or we don't get what we want. And all the sounds, they all look the same, but they're all different. I don't get what I want that bonus. Okay? I only get that bonus, or I only get that discount from my insurance company, Liberty Mutual. If not, okay, whatever. As you go through this process, you only get that discount if you don't have any crashes, or you don't have this happen. But now that happened, I didn't get what I wanted. Okay? Negative or positive? Negative. Okay. So, here's what you got. These are the 4 types of consequences you get for every behavior. Whether it's work, whether it's home. Again, we're talking about the ABCs of what type of behavior? Just work behavior? Human behavior. All types of behavior. So it's not just, okay? And so you think about this, you can apply this to your own life with your significant other, your kids, or whatever else. Okay? What do you get, and how do you work that? Okay? We do this enough the right way. We talked about habit already. It becomes a habit. So if we keep on doing the right things and we modify our behavior because of those consequences, we have good habits. So what affects the strength of those habits? Strength of those consequences. Okay? Promptness. The closer you have that consequence to the behavior that caused it, the better off it's going to be. Okay? Make sense? So, hey Rod, 5 months ago you did this. Whether it's good or bad, how does that affect Rod? 5 months ago? Probably not as much effect, right? So if you want to affect behavior, do your consequences as soon as you can after they get done. Okay? Because that's when they're going to remember. That's when it's fresh. That's when you get that thing. That's when you're going to start building those habits that you want to create. Okay? So, again, we want to do it promptly. What about probability? So, Rod, I deal with Rod a lot, but I only talk to him once every 3 weeks. So the chances of him getting any feedback at all is pretty remote. The probability of that happening is pretty remote. Okay? Or even if I see Rod every day, but I don't talk to him. Or I don't reinforce that on a daily basis or a weekly basis, what's going to happen? It's less effective. You still can have good results, still good change the behaviors, but you have a better chance to change your behaviors if you make sure that every time that happens, there's a result. Every time they ring that bell, that dog went over there and hopefully he got dinner, right? Okay? Okay, and then there's pertinence. Okay, that is the perceived value. So pertinence. Is that important? Why is that important? This is really what it comes down to right here. Why is that important for you? Okay? Why is that important for you? Well, see, if you do that snow plowing the right way, you get all that done, not only are you going to get our traffic to be in good shape and not have any delays, you're going to get home safely because you've already done the things for your truck that you needed to do to make you get home safe today too. Okay, so every time you promote that, make this a personal value type thing to that person. Why is it important to them? It's always important to the company, right? Why is it important to the company? Because it's a traditional safety, because it's the procedure, it's the policy, it's the law, whatever it is, it's important to somebody in the company. Why is it important to them to get that consequence? Remind them why it's important. We talked about the most important stuff. Why is it important for you not to get injured today? So you get home and you can go to your daughter's piano recital. You can go play softball with your team, whatever it's going to be. Make it important. So these three things will strengthen or decrease the strength of any kinds of consequence. So how many kinds of consequences were there? 4. And I'm sure you guys can repeat them off, right? Probably not, but let's just go back real quick. And we get what we want. We avoid getting what we don't want. That's the positives. We get what we don't want. And we don't get what we want as the negatives. And again, those are the factors that make a difference. So let's talk about this. Consequences. Forms of consequences. There's tangible. Okay? So when talk comes to safety, we're talking about, hey, your health and wealth is going to be increased by you not getting injured, etc. Okay? Work process, we're going to talk about, that's why it's important for you to take the time to do it this way. Don't put wait till that machine cycles and it goes back up before you stick your hand in that machine. Okay, those type of things. So when we talk about the work process, we talk about social. So if we want to we want to improve performance, we can remove barriers. Okay, we can do that kind of stuff. And I don't want to focus too much on this screen because I think the next ones are better. So here we go. Here's an example. Ready? So let's talk about speeding. This is all hypothetical because I know no one out here speeds, right? Okay, it's all hypothetical, but we're going to talk about speeding. So, first of all, you have your need. What's the need? So here's what the cycle is. You have a need, you figure out what your options are, you choose an option, and that choice becomes the behavior. Okay? Then you have the consequences, and then you reassess that. So, it's Monday morning. I need to get to work on time. You all been there before, right? Okay? I need to get to work on time. I can speed or I can follow the speed limit. So, you're running 5 minutes behind what you normally do. Does that affect your choice? It could, right? Potentially could affect your choice. I'm not saying it has to. It could affect your choice. All right? So I decide to exceed the speed limit. So I exceed. So again, here's a critical thing. Choices and behaviors are basically the same thing. We got them separated here, but once I decide I need to go faster, I'm going to go faster. True? There's a red light up there, and I decide I'm going to stop for the red light. I'm going to take my foot off the accelerator, put my foot on the brake. If I decide I'm not going to stop for that red light, my behavior will be different. Okay? So then what happens? I get to work on time. I pass others along the way. I wave to everybody. Okay? Woo, yeah, I'm getting there on time, guys. Okay? And so now what happens? What you going to do tomorrow? When this happens, what are you going to do tomorrow? Did you get what you wanted? That's a positive reinforcer. So now what happens? Are you more or less likely to do that again? More likely to do that again. That's exactly right. So, whether you're behind schedule or not tomorrow, it may be irrelevant. Because now you've got the consequence you wanted and you know how to get it. True? Okay? So, So now, second scenario, I need to get to work on time, I can speed or follow the posted speed limit. I decide to exceed the posted speed limit. Okay, I exceeded the posted speed limit, and I get a $200 speeding ticket. Okay, is that one of those positive or negatives? You got what you didn't want, right? Okay, I got what I didn't want. So now, is that more or less likely tomorrow you're going to exceed the speed limit? Probably less likely, okay? Less likely is a negative, so you're less likely. That's going to change your behavior, modify your behavior because of the result, the consequence. All right? Very important. So, and if you got to go home and explain to the wife or husband or something else how, yeah, we're not going to the baseball game tonight because I spent the $200 on a speeding ticket, donated it to the state. Woo, like the state, but I don't have to donate that much money to them, right? Okay, so what do you think? I give you a different perspective? Okay, so here, you got what you wanted, you are more likely to do that again. Here, you got what you didn't want, you're less likely to do that. Okay, so let's talk about the stop sign. Same type of thing. You need to get to work on time. You can either stop or not stop at the stop signs. I decide to stop at all the stop signs, okay? And I get to work unharmed. May or may not be late, may whatever, but I got there, I'm safe, the most important thing, right? So now am I more or less likely to do that again? Based on that, you're more likely to do it. Your boss yells at you because you were 10 minutes late, maybe your consequence is that's a different consequence, creates a different environment, true? Okay, so what is the difference? What was the difference on those scenarios? Was the antecedent any different? If I'm driving from my house to here, and I'm going along I-15, the entire way it's posted 65 miles an hour. Does that change whether I speed or not? No, posted antecedent. We've been trained on that. We see what it says at 65 miles an hour. What are we supposed to do? Not exceed 65 miles an hour. Okay? Did that change whether I got a ticket or didn't get a ticket? Did that change? Your antecedents don't always change, but your behavior will change depending on the consequence that you get. So here's the key to that. Consequence really is king. You think about it. Wasn't too many times I didn't get the garbage out to the street of my house. I'm just telling you, it happened once or twice, and I'm a slow learner. Again, ask the wife, but I'm telling you what, it didn't take that many times to make that change in my life.
I think a lot of it too, that we not just the speeding scenario, but anything we do in behavior is the assessment of our needs and trying to decide which need is more important. Getting to work on time or getting to work safely. Sometimes we don't get the right perceived value of the need. We think this need is more important than that need.
I appreciate that. That's right on the money. You know, I don't have another $100,000, but I do have a Baby Ruth, so you hit a home run with that one, see? So here's what you get a consequence, see? Yes. All right. So here's what you got. You're right on the money because you have what they call values or priorities. Okay, when you instill values, how easy are they to change? Your values easy to change or hard to change? Usually hard to change. How about your priorities? Mine change every 5 seconds. I mean, it depends on who's calling me, who's on the other end of the phone. My priorities may change, right? But my values don't change. So one of the things we can do to help improve safety in our people is instill good values. Why is it important to them? Go back to the training. Why is it important? What's going on that makes a difference to them, okay? So consequence will determine our behaviors. Good. 9 out of 10 times, it's not the antecedent that's going to change our behavior, it's going to be that consequence. Okay, traditional behavior-based consequences really determine what's going to happen next. Whether I'm going to speed next or whether I'm not going to speed next, okay? We focus on the feedback. we focus on the consequence. When we're talking about a behavior-based safety process, we're talking about the consequence. Consequence is me talking to that person and giving them feedback. Great job on this, and I like that. Okay, that is what's going to change the behavior as you go through the process. Okay, before we take a break here, let me just, I told you, I think we got just a couple of minutes here. So let me tell you what I did at my house. My wife and I'm a safety geek. You just got to just realize that. Okay, it's just the way it goes. And I'm okay with that word, safety geek. I'm not necessarily a safety nerd, but I'm a safety geek. Okay, so as a safety geek, we were having some issues with our children of their results on cleaning their room. Anybody have that issue going on in their house or had that issue going on? If not, you can probably imagine. Okay, so we would say, hey, you're not going to do that unless you get your room cleaned. So we say, okay, fine. They come back 10 minutes later. You're thinking, what would you do, blow it up? Because that's only 10 minutes you can do much else to fix it, And that's like, okay. So we'd go down there. It didn't meet our standards of what our clean room should look like. Okay, I don't know that's a good way to put that, politically correct and all that. But it didn't meet the right standards. Okay, so my wife and I was starting into behavior-based safety. This was probably about 15 years ago, and we said, okay, we need to change something. We're not getting the results we want. How do we get our kids to do this? So as a safety geek, I take this behavior-based safety stuff, and I say, okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to get it to work for our kids? So what do? We sit down, and we went about it the wrong way the first time. First time we said, here's what a clean room looks like. Kids, here's what a clean room looks like. Go do it. Guess what? Did we get any improvement? Yeah, but it was, it was pretty minimal improvement to what we thought was going to happen. So here's what we did after that. Is we sat down with our kids and said, okay, let's sit down and we're going to pick out, remember we talked about how you can get specific with behaviors and different elements? So we sat down, we said, here's what we consider a clean room. And we had our kids around the table, the three of them, and they all got to give their input, part of getting involving everyone, right? So we got them involved in it, and we said, here are the things that a clean room looks like. So we set up 6 or 7 elements of what a clean room would look like. And we said, okay, so all the clothes are not on the floor. Okay? That's one of the things, or whatever. All the clean clothes should be in your dresser drawers, not stacked anywhere else or underneath the bed. All the dirty clothes have to be in the hamper. Okay? Okay? Here's what we want the bed to look like. And we set down 6 or 7 criteria with our kids of what good would look like. Okay? And that would be, that's kind of we're looking at the results, but it takes the behaviors to get those results. So we just said, okay, this is what good would look like. And so we said, okay, and if you do that, here's what's going to happen. You have to clean your room at least 3 times a week. If you do that at least 3 times a week, you tell us about it. We may come down and do a spot inspection on those 6 elements, not the other 52 things that we really think are wrong. Okay, but we're going to just pick out those 6 elements, and then if you do that right, at the end of the week, we'll take everybody for a Slurpee. Okay, we add some incentives, some good consequences to that. Okay, so then, and if you do it for 3 weeks in a row, we'll take you out to XYZ place for dinner, their favorite place for dinner. I'm not going to mention, but it's their favorite place for dinner. Okay? And if you do it for 6 weeks in a row, then we're going to do this. Okay? What do you think happened? We gave away a lot of Slurpees. That's a good thing, right? We even had some good dinners. We didn't ever get to the 6th week in a row thing, but that was a way big improvement for our kids. Well, that worked for about 6 weeks, and so then we said we're gonna add on to that. And we did that for every room in our house. So if your job was to clean the living room, here's what that looked like. Your job was to clean the bathroom, here's what that looked like. Your job was to clean the kitchen, and we rotated jobs around every week, everybody had a different job. But we decided what the key elements, the key expectations would look like, and then we rewarded them accordingly. Very successful. Our 2 boys basically took over the basement, and my wife still calls that not the man cave, she calls it something else, but she doesn't really appreciate we've got it to that level, and even 15 years later, they're still doing those same critical elements that we said to do. They're not doing much else, I gotta tell you, but they are doing those critical elements. The ones that are still living at home are still doing that, okay? So what do you think? Behavior-based processes work. Not only just at home, and it'll work, but everywhere. This is the ABCs of human behavior. You know, think about the animals when they do that. They train them certain ways. They give them certain treats. If they jump through the hoop, they do this, they do that, they get the results they want, right? And if they don't, anybody been there where they haven't done what they were supposed to do? Yeah, I have. Okay. So what does the trainer do? He just go back. He didn't do it right. Just points, and the dolphin or the whale or whatever goes back out and does something again, and gets back and is waiting for a treat. If it's not the right thing, back out. Okay. We're talking about behavior-based safety. Now, this will all come together in a little bit, but behavior-based safety is about focusing on the elements that are critical to your operation, what you want to accomplish, and how you want to do that, and you can get it by giving them the right consequences. That doesn't mean you have to bribe them or give them everything's got to be trinkets and steak dinners, but it is something about the behavior process that you got to take a look at. Okay? Okay with that? So, from my own experimentation as a safety geek, this works. At home, okay? Still trying to figure out how to do it with the wife, and I haven't figured that out yet, so. Okay, she obviously hasn't figured it out for me either, but for the kids it works. Okay, if you want to try that on significant other, let me know how the results go. I'd like to. But there are certain things that do still with it. The wife says something, I know when to leave it alone. So I guess that does work. It's still human behavior as you go through the process. All right? Comments, questions? Derogatory remarks so far? Darn. Okay. Let's do this then. Let's take a break. We're a little bit early on the break, but we'll make up that time. We'll be just a bit longer on the second half. So let's go ahead and take a break for 15 minutes. Go ahead and network and have some fun. When we come back, we have a couple of exercises. We're going to get some people out of their seats to do some things.